Here comes Boga. Jeremy Boga inside, drills it. Oh! Jeremy Boga's once again hit a worldie.
The Calcio Guys is a weekly podcast by Adreano Donardo, Gianni Delacoli, and myself, Nicholas Di Giovanni. We want to bring Calcio back to its roots in our communities and share stories from around the world about why we're passionate about the beautiful game. You can listen to us anywhere where you listen to your podcasts, including Spreaker, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart Radio, and Mixcloud. Give us your opinion on social media at The Calcio Guys on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The intro song is Fireworks by Jahzzar. We're back for another week of the Calcio Guys. A couple of us were sick last week, or one of us was sick last week, out with a minor injury, so that's why we couldn't record. I'm feeling better this week, Adriano. I don't know, how are you feeling?
Well, I mean, it's great. It's great to be back. Missed last week. A lot of good games last week. Big weekend last week, actually. A lot of good games. A lot of things went down in the Serie A as usual. And but no, it's good to be back. For Milan, it would have been better if they would have picked up all 3 points. But I guess we'll speak a bit about that later.
Yeah, you know what? Last week in the Serie A, heading into it, the games didn't look that pleasing, but at the end, there was a lot of good games. Only 2 teams were shut out, I believe, Udinese and Fiorentina. Udinese lost...
No, sorry, it was Torino and Fiorentina.
Torino and Fiorentina. They were the only teams to...
Oh, and Udinese against Inter, you're right.
Okay, it was Udinese, yeah. They were the only teams to not score goals, so 17 different teams scored. But I want to start with Torino, because they fired their coach, Walter Mazzari. You know what? This was just a matter of time. I think with each of their past few losses, it was a question of, okay, when's Mazzari getting fired? You posted on our social media earlier today, time's up on Mazzari, with a little joke to his gesture of him pointing to the watch, which we love. We're not going to see that for a bit, but he's probably going to get some job at some point. But in terms of Torino, it was something that had to be done.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a rough couple of weeks for this Torino side. Obviously, the shellacking, I guess you can say, that they picked up against Atalanta 7-0, 4-0 against, obviously, Lecce over the weekend, and also getting knocked out of Coppa Italia against Milan, going all the way to extra time. In that game, they haven't picked up a win since January 12th against Bologna, a 1-0 win over there. So, like you said, I think matter of time, I guess, for Mazzari. I think he's a good coach and definitely can pick up a job somewhere in the Serie A. I think one of maybe the lower end teams or middle of the pack teams like Torino. I don't know. I think it's just his tactics. If there were any tactics involved, were kind of getting stale, and saw no hunger by this Torino team. You check that game against Lecce. I mean, what a disappointment. Lecce is fighting for relegation, and they put 4 past Sirigu, and Sirigu even had some good saves. So it was a tough break for them these past couple of weeks, and I think, like you said, a matter of time for Mazzari.
And it's funny, they started off the year pretty well. They had a 2-0 win against Roma. They won in the Coppa Italia in penalties against Genoa with 10 men. So, by the way, we're going to talk to Fabrizio from Genoa Club Toronto later about that Genoa side. Torino beat Bologna 1-0 at home on January 12th. And then the trouble started with their loss against Sassuolo, and then 7-0 against Atalanta with 2 players sent off, 4-2 against Milan in the Coppa Italia, a game that they were leading until pretty much the 93rd minute, and then losing 4-0 this past weekend, including this goal from Pipo Falco.
Here's Falco with a bit of space. Falco decides to shoot, and he finds the top corner. 3-0 Lecce. Falco with a beauty, and Lecce's got a great chance now to finally break their duck at home.
You got to be happy for Lecce, that first win at home. And by the way, Livrani got the silver coach of the year. Behind Gianpiero Gasparini. So good for him. Good to see him do well.
I was surprised. I remember a couple weeks back when we were speaking about maybe coaches being on the hot seat, getting fired. I thought he would be amongst those names of coaches to get sacked, and he's definitely proved me wrong and made me bite my words. He's done a lot for this, for this Lecce team. Obviously, fighting for relegation. They're currently in 17th spot at the moment, and you know what? I think he's got everybody on board with what obviously they have one goal in mind, and that's to stay up in Serie A. And I think with these types of performances, they can definitely do so.
So, by the way, the Panchina d'Argento is awarded to the best non-Serie A coach. Usually one of the coaches that wins promotion. 5 out of the last 6 winners coached in the Serie A at some point this season. Andreazzoli, Semplice, Juric, Sarri, and Di Francesco all won those trophies in the past couple of years. That trophy in the past couple of years. And speaking about Di Francesco and his Sassuolo, his old Sassuolo rather, against his old Roma, just a shock result for Sassuolo. If you follow us on the Calcio Guys on Instagram, we do the weekly polls trying to get people to predict or who's more likely going to win. Obviously on Instagram, with the 2-way poll, you can't really predict any draws, but it is what it is. And 8% voted for Sassuolo, and 92% of people were wrong, mainly because of these 2 fantastic goals.
Here comes Boga. Jeremy Boga inside, drills it. Oh! Jeremy Boga's once again hit a worldie, and Sassuolo again have daylight between themselves and Roma. Sassuolo now playing it out from the back and opening up Roma. Berardi up against Smalling, has the overlap. It's wonderful stuff. And Francesco Caputo has his second. And Sassuolo are blowing the visitors away at the moment.
As Barella pokes it forward just before a challenge.
That was not meant to be played, that last clip. Lukaku's goal against Udinese. But Roma, it's their first ever loss against Sassuolo in the Serie A.
That's crazy. That's crazy to think about.
Because Sassuolo, they first played in the Serie A in 2013-2014, so it's their 7th season. So 14 games later, their first win. What a shock, especially it's night and day for Roma, considering how they played in the derby versus how they played versus Sassuolo.
Yeah, they faced a tough and obviously great Lazio team last week in the derby. I think that game could have kind of went either way. Obviously finished with the 1-1 result, but this game I think they were in the hole early. 3 early goals actually. Caputo with 2 and Juricic with another. Before Dzeko finally got his 100th goal actually in a Roma shirt to make it 3-1. But they fell back early. They looked demoralized. They looked like no cohesiveness, nothing. It was a total different team in my opinion from last week. A team that is fighting for Europe, if it's going to be Champions League, if it's going to be Europa League, whatever the case is. They are a team that's up top in the standings, and this is not how you want to play going forward. So I think this was probably, if you want to say, maybe an off game for them, because a team that I think under Fonseca has proven quite a bit in this short period of time under him. So I think we have to give credit where credit's due, and I think Sassuolo deserves all of it. Obviously, Caputo with 2 big goals, and Boga to put the dagger at the end with a beautiful goal over the weekend. So I think all the credit to Sassuolo, and a bounce back hopefully next week for Roma.
Cagliari Parma, a game that 2 teams kind of fighting for European spots, and it was pretty wild, and it finished on this goal.
The cross in, the free header, and Cornelius in the 94th minute has stolen a point for Parma right at the death.
So Cagliari, by the way, have not won in 8 games since match day 14 on December 2nd when they beat Sampdoria 4-3. They've drawn their last 3 games. They had lost 4 to the 5 previously. Obviously, this does not include their Coppa Italia win against Samp, which was right after they beat Samp in the season, and they also lost in the Coppa Italia 4-1 against Inter. But, this was a team we're praising. I wouldn't say they're going back to what everyone was expecting of them, because I don't think many people are expecting to go 8 games without a win. And they're still in a spot right now, or rather fighting for a spot for European. Or rather, they are in the 6th place. So right now they're still happy with where they are, but they have to start winning because Parma's right on their tail, and this is a team that just tied them. Obviously, if Cagliari picked up 3 points, it'd be a different story. They're 7 points behind Roma, so right now it's basically going to be a battle between Cagliari, Parma, Milan, Verona, Napoli, even Bologna for that 6th spot.
Yeah, it's tough. I think this Cagliari side has definitely went on a bit of a roller coaster ride throughout this season. They started off hot, and I think as of late they're kind of coming back down to ground. In a sense, I don't think they're going to be crashing down the standings, but I still think they are lucky to be where they're at. Like you said, still obviously in 6th place, but a lot of teams breathing down their necks, and that middle of the pack fight for Europe. Just like last year, this year again is going to be a dogfight, and I think it's going to go down to maybe the last couple matches of the season. So Cagliari, I think obviously we've praised Maran in the past, and I think they do have a good squad there. Slowly but surely, João Pedro, 14 goals on the season. I think he's kind of been under the radar, and a guy that's been really important for their team. Obviously, Ninja Nainggolan, Simeone Hernandez, to name a few. Pellegrini, I like on the left-hand side too. Is pretty important for them. So I think, again, with this Cagliari team, they play as a unit, and they play well as a unit. So I think, again, if they can pick up the traction that they had early on in the season, I think they can contend, but it's going to be really tough with the teams around them.
Incredible to see, though.
Yeah.
6 teams within 2 points of each other, fighting for that last European spot, and obviously, the team that finishes 7th still has some hope.
Chance,
has some hope depending on who wins the Coppa Italia.
That's it.
Obviously, if Milan goes out and wins the Coppa Italia, it could really change things.
True.
But if Juve, Napoli, or Inter, or even Napoli, they're Napoli's fighting. So, but if Juve or Inter win the Coppa Italia, then another European spot's going to go to the 7th seed. So,
True.
I mean, there's still a lot to play for in the Coppa Italia. Obviously, these teams want to get into that 6th spot.
Yeah.
But Milan, they tied for Verona on the weekend, but I want to talk about the transfers, because this month they really got rid of some deadwood. They really got rid of some players who, some were saying were kind of the weak link with Milan, Krzysztof Piątek, Suso, and they obviously they brought in Zlatan at the beginning of the market. They tried to bring in some youth with Salamakers. They tried to get Robinson from the Premier League. They got Laxalt back on loan because they couldn't get Robinson, and they got obviously Kerr to add some depth on defense, and Begovic as as a backup to Donnarumma. But the positive for Milan is getting rid of those guys instead of bringing these other guys in.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously the biggest transfer in obviously is going to be Zlatan. There's just the name alone is better than any of these guys that you name. So I think deadwood, yes, in a sense, but at the same time, a player like Suso, obviously he's been with Milan through this dark time in their history, and I think him leaving, I think sent a message. Piątek, on the other hand, I don't know. I didn't really want them to totally just ship him off. I think it was smart doing it now. Just as a fan, and seeing where this team is, and seeing the game over the weekend without Ibra, they're a total different team. So just to have still some depth, I think would have been important. But at the same time, I feel that if they wouldn't have gotten rid of him now, they would have kept him on, and him staying on the bench and coming on here and there, I think his value only would have went down. So I think business sense, I think Maldini, Boban, Gazidis, I think they did something good there. But I don't know, Suso out, okay. He wanted to make a move to Spain, and I think maybe it can shake up maybe the rest of his season. But I don't see him, like he was saying, he wanted to do this move to get him maybe into the Spain side, and Personally, I don't know if that's possible, just because Spain has just an incredible nation. But yeah, I think the guys coming in, obviously young guys. We got Salsicha Maker over there from Anderlecht. Who knows who this guy is? I mean, hopefully he can bring a spark. I don't know. It's going to be tough to see, but I think they're a bit thin going down the stretch, and down the stretches where they need to make the most of these games. So it's going to be tough, and I hope for the best, but we're going to have to take it game by game. And
some of the other teams who looking for a push in the standings had a pretty busy market too. Inter, they brought in Ashley Young, Christian Eriksen, Victor Moses. Obviously, they're fighting for the Scudetto. They get rid of Lazzaro and Di Marco, both on loans, two wingbacks. Fiorentina brings in Kwame, Duncan, Amrabat. He's going to come in in the summer. They brought in Agudelo from Genoa, Igor from Spal. Napoli brought in Diego Deme, Matteo Politano, Lobotka. And then obviously Patania is going to come in the summer.
True.
Out of those three teams, who do you think had the best winter transfer market?
Well, I think the one that made probably the most noise, I guess, and probably kind of a bit maybe unexpected, I think was Fiorentina. They seemed like they were picking out of everybody's baskets. I don't know. They were going around and they were grabbing anything they can. And I think
Genoa, Sassuolo, Spal, Verona,
Wolves.
Wolves. Yeah, I forgot to mention Cutrone.
So I think in the matter of who did the biggest noise, I think made the biggest noise, I think was them, Fiorentina. In terms of importance, I think, like you said, Inter's pushing obviously for the Scudetto, and they brought in some key pieces. Obviously I'm not an Inter fan, but I think the move for Eriksen is pretty important. Another figure in the midfield that can control the midfield and can make that extra pass, be that playmaker. But alongside I think two national team players in Sensi and Barella. I think it's going to be pretty big for them. Ashley Young, Moses, I think take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, Conte liked them in the past, being from the Premier League. So I think it could work in his system. Put him on another team, I don't think it works. But for Conte's system, I think it does. So in terms of the most noise, I like Fiorentina's because they got a lot of good players. And a lot of players I think can work with this young team. But Inter, at the same time, I think made important key signings that are going to fit their system for the now and maybe for the future as well.
You know what? I like Napoli's market just because they've actually improved since they've gotten those players. Diego Deme, he's played most of the games. I don't have the exact numbers, but he's played most of the games. He's looked good. He's named after Diego Maradona, which is good. He scored yesterday against Sampdoria, and I saw on Twitter our friend Frank Cavallaro, a huge Napoli fan. I forget if he asked somebody something or he just said it on Twitter. He said, Napoli's back.
On our post.
Okay, so that's where I saw it then. Would you agree with that?
Listen, I think are they back? Not 100%. They're obviously it's going to take a lot for them to be officially back. This is a team that a couple years ago was close to maybe winning the Scudetto and have been up in the top two these past couple of years. So I think it's still a slow process to get back, if you will. Are they on the right path? I think so. I think Gattuso, as I know and as many people know, he is a motivator and can get the group going, and I think that is what he's doing right now, and it's finally happening because at the beginning it seemed like he wasn't even doing that well. So personally, I don't think they're 100% back, but I think they're in the right direction.
Mario Rui cuts it back. Insigne, great block from Colli, but it's smashed home by Demme. Napoli have their third goal. They're back in front.
That was Demme's goal. So a man named Diego wins a game for Napoli. Mertens, by the way, he's obviously passed Diego Maradona in terms of goals, 2 behind Marek Hamsik now for Napoli's all-time lead. Huge news for Juve too. They were really quiet in the January transfer window. It's something I'm not surprised about. They have just a ton of squad depth.
They don't need it.
Maybe one area they could have improved on or just added maybe a bit of depth was defense because of the injuries. But they're getting Chiellini back, and that's huge for the team. And you know what? Considering, he got hurt in August. He's back in February, so that's 6 months. That's a good timeline. Euros in 4 months. I think he's given himself a real, I wouldn't say chance to make the team, because a fully fit Giorgio Chiellini is going to make that Azzurri team any day of the week. But he's given himself a chance to really get back into rhythm. He's going to be playing in the Champions League now. He's going to be playing weekly in the Serie A to get back into the rhythm ahead of the Euros. And that's something not only Juve fans are going to be happy about, but Italy fans as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's important for him, obviously, to finally come back after a pretty serious injury. At his age, it's not easy. It's going to be a bit of a stretch. I mean, it's 4 months. Yeah, I think that's enough time. He is a veteran, obviously, and he knows his body, and he knows what it takes, to play at such a high level. So, especially in a competition like the Euros. So, I think, is he going to be on the team? That's going to be debate until the tournament starts almost. So, I think, is it important for him to be there? Yes. Just, even if he doesn't play all the games, just there, as a leader, as a motivator, as a veteran player in the locker room, with, the young guys that, will be coming up, hopefully, with this Azzurri team. So, it's going to be tough, but I think, like you said, it's important, and it's a big sigh of relief for Juve fans, but not to say that they haven't played well without his presence. It's unfortunate that Demiral went down. I think, for me personally, looking on the outside in, that was pretty unfortunate to see a young guy like that go down. A guy who could have replaced Chiellini going forward, but it is what it is. But I think, like you said, it's going to be important for him to come back and get into the rhythm and be fully fit for now and for the Euros.
Okay, so time for our social media questions that we got on Instagram. Our friend Joseph from Calcio Fan Blogs.
Last week's guest. 2 weeks ago, guest.
2 weeks ago. Can Napoli win their Champions League tie against Barca? I don't see why they can't.
No, yeah, exactly.
But this is why everything's played on the pitch, right? Yeah. They definitely have the talent. They have they have the team to do it, and Barca is Barca, right? But they're not having the best season. They're not having the Barca type of season. They're I wouldn't say looking average. They are 3 points behind Madrid for top spot in the Liga, but they do have 4 losses and they do have 4 draws, and they could be doing better than a team with Leo Messi,
Griezmann
can.
Yeah, and
obviously Griezmann. Dembele just got hurt, by the way, and so it's going to be tough for Napoli, no doubt about it. But from Barcelona's point of view, they can't come into this and think it's going to be easy, because they know it's not. Yeah. Considering how they've lost the last 2 Champions Leagues, it's going to be a real challenge for them to get over that 3-0 comeback against Roma, and that was it 3-0 or 4-1 against Liverpool as well? I know quite a few goals. It was a comeback as well, with a corner again, and a play that Barcelona just shut off on, and they're gonna want to bounce back for that. So they play on a day before Juve, by the way. So February 25th, they played then, and then. And the other question coming in from Debatable Football: how much impact do you guys think Eriksen will have on Inter?
Yeah, listen, as I said before, that's a great question, and I think as I said before, I think he's pretty important. Coming in from a Tottenham side that has been relatively decent or relatively good in the Premier League these past couple of years, and he's been an important figure in that team. So coming over to Inter in Conte's style and style of play that he likes to play, I think Eriksen can. There's so much he can give, and I think he can give a lot for this team. And I personally, looking at from the outside in, I think it's a big move. Bringing him in to play alongside Barella, Sensi, Brozovic, guys like that. So I think how much of an impact can he make? Only time will tell. His first now couple of starts or a couple of appearances hasn't been anything to write home about. But I think with time, and if this plan that Inter has extends past this year and goes into the future, and they keep Conte on board and everything seems to be working throughout the club. I think his presence can only be even more important. So I personally think it's a good move. A move. Did they have to make it now? I mean, it's up for debate. Obviously, before that they were still doing well and at the top of the table. So, but no, to say the least, I think it's a big move for Inter.
Yeah, so let's do MVP of the week, then we'll do yellow card, red card. For me, I'm going to go with Immobile.
What a game, man.
I mean, 2 goals, 1 assist, I believe, for Ciro, including this goal, which the audio doesn't do it justice, by the way.
Lazzari feeds in Immobile on the one-on-one, skips past Bonifacio and round Berisha. The angle is too wide. The keeper's out of his goal. And Ciro Immobile will strike it anyway. Oh my word! He can score from anywhere.
He definitely can score from anywhere, and you heard it there. The way the commentator was talking, it was almost as if the play was dead, and he scored that wonder goal. 25 goals now in the season, 11 away from tying Higuain's record. Ton of season left, and so we're cheering for Ciro, and he gets my MVP of the week.
Big time. I mean, if you weren't going to give it to him, I definitely was.
That's why I went first.
Yeah, there you go. No, but Immobile's been on a hell of a season, hell of a run, and we, as you said, we definitely hope he can continue. For me, I saw that you did put another guy that I was looking at. Obviously, you know him for his celebration, but he can definitely score too. Ciccio Caputo, big game for Sassuolo. As I said earlier, getting the 2 early goals against Roma. And just off the bat with those 2 goals, and then the third by Juricic, pretty much almost put the game to bed. Unfortunately, they had some defensive mishaps, to get Roma back into that game there. But Ciccio Caputo this season, going into the season, it was going to be sad because he went down with Empoli, but then Sassuolo picked him up back in Serie A. We love him, and I think he's a guy that goes under the radar, a guy who can score a lot of goals and who can make the most out of his opportunities. So for me, definitely this week, MVP goes to Ciccio Caputo.
And so let's do our cards. You start. Take it with your yellow card first.
So for my yellow card, I'm gonna go to. I was looking on social media. Sky reported again. Brescia trying to get rid of their coach again.
Oh my God! Yeah, yeah.
It's like, how many times do you want to rinse repeat with this whole cycle? It's a bit ridiculous. And to bring Diego Lopez, I think the name was.
Yeah.
I don't know. You already brought Grosso, another former player. Is it really going to make a difference? Can we just please finish the season? I remember a couple weeks back, our friend Joseph from Calcio Fan Blog said, "Will they make it? Will they stay in Serie A?" I'm trying to, stay on that, on this fine line of them, staying in Serie A, but it seems more and more likely that, they're not. And just with these change of coaches, to me, it makes no sense. Finish the season, pick your caretaker coach and finish the season, start fresh again in the summer. For me, this week, that merits a yellow card just because it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, it's pretty much Palermo's situation.
Rinse, repeat, man. Every week, every other week, it's a different coach in the news. So, for me, it makes no sense.
This is definitely going to be another yellow.
So, I'm going to go to Bergamo, Atalanta Genoa. And so, if we get in touch with Fabrizio, we're going to talk about that game. But I want to talk about a specific aspect that happened. Davide Baraschi got absolutely drilled in the head with a shot in close. It looked like the guy was knocked out. He went down right away. Medical staff was out there right away. And he was barely able to walk to the sidelines. You could tell he's concussed. He has a head injury. 30 seconds later, he's back playing. What an absolute joke. You have to put player safety first, especially when it comes to the head. The head's the most important part of the body. Without the head, the rest of the body doesn't work.
That's it.
Or at least without the brain, if you want to get into real scientific terms.
Yeah, if you have a brain.
Yeah. And so, you look at so many other leagues around the world, the NFL, the NHL. I don't know how the NBA deals with concussion protocol, but players have to go into the quiet room for 15 minutes. You need a test out to make sure they're fine. 30 seconds later, he was on the pitch. He was just knocked out cold. And you know what they did? They put those ice packs that look like, the ones from the movies.
In Nonna's freezer.
Yeah, the ones from the movies, with the kind of like a bag,
Yeah, the Fred Flintstone one.
Yeah, exactly. oh, okay, he's fine.
He's
and
back, yeah.
I have to wonder if I wonder if he's going to play next week. It's just player safety comes first, especially when it comes to head injuries.
It's a late challenge, surely maybe the first yellow of the match.
You red?
Yeah, so for me, going to my red, I'm going to go back to the whole Immobile goal. It was a phenomenal goal, his second one, I might add. Honestly, made something out of nothing, but what the hell was Berisha doing? I have absolutely no idea. I thought I had a bit of agita when Donnarumma came out against Udinese and made a mockery. Berisha, I have no idea what the hell he was doing coming out for that long ball that clearly Immobile was going to get to. Like, there was not even a shadow of a doubt that he wasn't going to get to the ball, and he got to the ball with ease. And Berisha was in no man's land, trying to make something back. Ultimately, he couldn't make a save or couldn't make a play on Immobile there. But definitely for me this week merits a red card, because you make a mockery of yourself. Your team goes down even harder, and it just makes absolutely no sense. So for me this week, Berisha gets my red card.
Could be a red card. The red card is out. And it's no surprise. Absolutely is against the rules.
So for me, I'm going to have to go to Fiorentina and their president, Mr. Rocco Commisso, for his comments after Juve Fiorentina, in which he said, this is quoted by, or rather translated by IFTV. I'm disgusted. Referees can't decide matches. Juve doesn't need help from the referees. The same thing happened to us versus Genoa and Inter. I'm really pissed off. Games are won on the pitch. Juve, with a 350 million euro wage, doesn't need help from the referees too. Mr. Commisso, with all due respect, he looks like an absolute fool with those comments. Sports, you're supposed to teach morals and ethics and how to play the sport properly, how to act responsibly, how to accept failure. Mr. Commisso did not do any of that following Sunday's game. There's kids out there who are watching this, who are listening to those comments, and they're going to think that it's all right to, when you lose, just blame the referees right away. Yes, Juve did get 2 penalties, but 2 very merited penalties. And if Mr. Commisso is going to go and go on the microphones after the game and just shout this blasphemy, this useless nonsense, when his team had 25% possession, 25%, and they couldn't score a goal, and he's going to go and talk about the referees, I'm going to give him credit, because he's doing a really good job of taking away attention from the fact that his Fiorentina is absolutely overrated this season and not living up to expectations.
How could they be overrated?
Well, with the players they have. Vlahovic, Chiesa, Bulgar, Cutrone now, Dragowski.
I don't think they're overrated.
He started with Boateng and Ribéry. But still, he's doing a really good job of taking away from the fact that they didn't play a good game. And these type of comments are useless in the sport. How I see it, Mr. Commisso is saying that when you play against Juventus, you shouldn't follow the rules. If his captain, Mr. Pizzella, held his arm in, it would be a different story. If Mr. Ceccherini didn't elbow Bentancur in the face, it would be a different story. But those are penalties, and I'm not even going to talk about the penalties aspect. I'm talking about the comments and the reaction, and it's an embarrassing reaction. It's something that, as I said, you don't want to teach your kids. I hope he doesn't go home and tells his kids. I don't know if Mr. Commisso has kids.
His son.
Okay, it's his son.
Joseph.
I hope he doesn't go home and tell him, hey, Joseph, when something goes wrong in your life, just blame it on others.
No, but listen, I think it was built up anger, like he said.
Probably
in the comments against Inter, against Napoli, against Genoa. I think. Was he in the wrong to the way he said it? Yes, the approach that he took. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. In my opinion, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. The way you approach certain situations, I think it could be up for debate. Was it right? Was it wrong? But then again, Nedved making his comments, was that right or wrong? Everybody could say their opinion to that too. I don't think there was any need for it. But I think this is just noise, and he has to get into the mentality of like, listen, this is not North America anymore. This is not the North American game. This is in Italy, the Serie A. Everything that you say, do is blasted, and you're under a microscope every step of the way. So, for that, I think it wasn't done the appropriate way.
By the way, I was watching an episode. The series Bad Blood.
Yeah.
About the Rizzuto crime family.
Yeah.
So in the episode, Niccolo Rizzuto, it's a flashback to 1950s. Niccolo Rizzuto sitting with little Vito Rizzuto, and they're in the garden, and the senior Rizzuto tells his son, okay, this summer you're going to help me grow the tomatoes, and for every tomato that dies, I'm going to punish you. Even if you do everything as I say, if you feed it properly, if you water it properly, if you take care of it exactly how I say, and the tomato dies, I'm going to punish you. And little Vito goes, why, Daddy? And he says, if you're responsible for something, you need to accept full responsibility.
No, for sure.
You can't, that goes back to what I said. You can't blame it on others. So,
red card of the week.
That's a long rant for the red card of the week for sure.
Another red card is shown.
So we're going to take a short break. We're going to try to get in touch with Fabrizio from Genoa Club Toronto.
Before we go to break, though, obviously we didn't have a show last week, but the sports world got hit with some unfortunate news. Obviously, the death of Kobe Bryant was a big thing that affected so many people in North America, in Italy, across the world. And just here from the Culture Guys, we'd like to, obviously send our condolences to the families affected, the Bryant family, the Altobelli family, all the families that were involved, the 9 victims involved. It's, very sad day, last week or 2 weeks ago now, and it just speaks that you hate to see, and a guy that, on and off the court, meant so much to so many people. I think, it speaks volumes of the person that he was, and in the game of basketball, in the game of calcio too, that he was heavily involved and heavily, and fascinated with the game, and obviously loved AC Milan, and I think, there's not enough good things to say about Kobe, and obviously we like to wish his family the best, and in this dark time.
So unfortunately, we weren't able to get in touch with Fabrizio from Genoa Club Toronto.
No, unfortunately not.
So we are back on the Calcio Guys with Adreano and Nicholas. I'm Nicholas Di Giovanni, and so big week ahead. Huge in this Serie A. Derby della Madonnina.
Yes, sir.
Obviously one of my favorite derbies. But before we get to that, I want to give a shout out to DAZN Canada, for allowing Calcio fans to watch Serie B. They added a couple of games each week this year, mainly the Friday night and the Monday night games, the primetime games, and I got the opportunity to watch Pescara play this week, and they beat Cosenza 2-1 with this goal right at the end.
2 minutes of added time remaining as Patella with the through ball finds Milos Bocic. Bocic into the penalty area, and it's under the goalkeeper, and Milos Bocic has put Pescara into the lead with just 2 minutes of added time remaining. His first goal in professional football. The 20-year-old Serbian, mobbed by his teammates, removes his shirt in celebration.
Honestly, it was fun to watch the Serie B. It was, not what I was expecting. It was a lot more open, because there's a lot less structure. Maybe, okay, this is a one-off game. I tried to catch a couple of the other games that were on the zone here and there, but, already we're watching so much Serie A. It's hard to follow along Serie B. But for Pescara, this was an important win. They move into 8th in Serie B. They're fighting. Obviously, Benevento is on top. Pordenone is right behind them. The team that pretty much came out of nowhere. The team that almost beat Inter in the Coppa Italia 2 years ago. They went to penalty shootouts, and that was a team, I think they were in the 3rd division at the time, possibly even 4th. Yeah, they're having a fantastic year. They actually play at the Dacia Arena. They're from, Pordenone is just it's close to Udine.
In the Udine region,
So they play in the Dacia Arena. So
Beautiful.
if they go to Serie A next year, we're going to have 2 teams at the Dacia Arena. But, that's still to be seen. The Serie B is unpredictable most of the time. Coming up this week in Serie B on the zone, Ascoli against Juve Stabia, Friday at 3.
Shout out Juve Stabia.
Cosenza against Benevento, 2 southern teams, Sunday at 3. And then Monday game this week is Salernitana versus Trapani. So shout out to Sicilian football.
Yeah, Anthony.
I know Trapani is just not having a really good year at all. They're fighting
They
relegation.
What do they need to bring in? The Pope needs to go there next.
Yeah, they're fighting relegation. And then next Friday, I get to see Pescara again against Cittadella. And then Chievo versus Salernitana once again on the 17th. Salernitana is obviously Giampiero Ventura's club.
Who?
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know that yet.
But, it was fun. I mean, considering Serie B has a lot more southern teams, a lot of us fans here in Montreal, we come from Southern Origins.
Yeah.
So we, a lot of our second teams are those southern teams in Serie B. And I know Marcello from Milan Club, Montreal, the president. He's from Cosenza.
Yeah.
His family's from Cosenza.
A lot of the admins actually are Cosentino descent.
There you go. They're all Cosenza fans, so they get to watch their team. I get to watch Pescara.
It's nice.
Juve Stabia, it's from near Napoli. There's a lot of people.
Marco Franco, that's his hometown team.
From Castellammare di Stabia.
Yes, sir.
Benevento is another one. There's I know a couple of people from Benevento. Obviously, they played in Serie A a couple of years ago, so it's cool to see. And the style of football that I saw, it was wide open.
Well, the competition's obviously different. It's not as high of a level as Serie A. Obviously, it's as you know, it's the second division in Italy. But no, I mean, I think it's good play, and I think it's good to see that the zone is slowly but surely picking up on it. I've heard, and I know Marcello will like. Presidente would like for them to claim all the rights and to them to show all the games, but obviously it is tough there. But no, I think it's good, like you said. It's exciting to see, and it's a different type of calcio.
Yeah,
like you said,
it's less structured because the talent's not there, so it's just more open and players pounce on mistakes a bit more.
It's more exciting.
Yeah. I mean, in this game, Cosenza got 2 red cards. Pescara got 1. Actually, Cosenza went up 1-0. They had 11 men. Pescara had the red card. They were down. And then Cosenza got a red card. Pescara tied it. And then at the end, Pescara scored in the 94th minute after a missed penalty, by the way.
Wow.
That was after a missed penalty. And then after the goal, Cosenza, one of their defenders, got a second yellow. So that's why they went down to 9 men. But yeah, I mean, it was nice to see Pescara play. I don't get to do it too often.
For sure.
Obviously I have family just outside of Pescara, so nice to get back to the roots, and I hope they pull off some miracle and become that third team to go up to the Serie A next year.
With the way they make it up to the playoff there. It's tough to get through there, but I mean, all these teams, are capable, and look at obviously this season with Hellas coming up and them having a great season. I mean, and Lecce proving some doubters wrong. So these teams coming from Serie B, man, they're better than some people would expect. So it's exciting times for Serie B.
So Crotone in 3rd with 34 points, Pescara in 8th with 32 points.
Well,
so it's very tight. It's very tight.
All the way down to what? Ascoli with 30. That's only 4 points.
Yeah, that's 12th. That's 12th place.
That's pretty cool.
Pisa with 29, Juve Stabia 28. So pretty much even Empoli with 27. It is
a bit of a stretch.
It is a stretch considering the teams in front, but Trapani 19. That's the big problem with them, and then Livorno right below, and then Cosenza as well. Just not a good season for them.
Yeah.
Moving back to the Serie A now, some pretty good games in match day 23. Obviously, the Derby. Inter is considered the host.
Home team, yeah. Well, Lazio
they won.
Lazio also with the makeup game.
Yeah. That's going back to match day 17.
True.
The makeup game, Lazio Verona.
Huge
that was
game for Lazio.
Even for Verona. This is a huge game all around, I think, because you look at Lazio. They're 2 points behind Inter and 5 behind Juve. So 3 points puts them 2 points behind the leaders. But Verona this is an equally as important game. They're in 9th, 2 points behind Milan, 2 points behind Cagliari in 6th. So if Verona gets the win, they go into 6th. I feel like it's going to be a tie, though.
You think?
I feel like it's going to be a tie, but knowing Lazio, it is in Lazio as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if they win as well. But knowing how important it is for both teams, I feel like it's going to be a tie.
Yeah, you think so? I'm going to lean towards Lazio because up until now we've everybody social media, anybody Calcio community wise posting about Serie A. Lazio's right up there. They're in the Scudetto race. They're in the conversation. 5 points back, 2 points back, whatever the case may be, and always saying, but they have that game in hand.
Yeah.
Well, now tomorrow, this is their game in hand, and this is the game that they need to capitalize on. And I think yes, it's important for both teams, but I just think it's even more important for Lazio this time around. And because if Verona loses or they don't pick up maximum points, yes, it hurts, but this team just came up from Serie B. This team's already, I feel, overachieving. So for Lazio to finally get maybe a step closer to actual contention for the Scudetto, I think it's huge for them.
So both teams come into this undefeated in their last 5, by the way. Lazio 4 wins in the last 5. I mean, this is just form on
for the last 5 games
that we see that I'm looking at on Google. I think it's 16 games unbeaten
for Lazio.
For Lazio in the Serie A.
There was a stat about it.
Yeah.
It might be even more.
I think it's 16 games unbeaten in the Serie A. And then Verona comes into this with 3 wins in their last 5. Obviously, they're coming off the trough, so it is an important game.
Yeah,
it is going to be
2020.
Yeah, there you go. It's going to be a. I'm excited for it.
Me too.
Tomorrow afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, I'm excited for it. I hope Immobile stretches his goal tally because he finally gets that made up game on everyone else. And you know what? I hope after this game there's the schedule is going to be, I wouldn't call it perfect the rest of the way, but it's going to be no rescheduled games. Everyone's just going to play when they're supposed to play, and it's just easier to look at the standings that way as well.
For sure.
And so looking at this week in the Serie A, so we'll do the derby last. Besides the derby, there are some interesting games. Verona does play Juventus, by the way, on the weekend. So tough week for them. They are at home. That is going to be another good game. Fiorentina hosts Atalanta. Let's see if they could bounce back after that abysmal performance against Juve. And then for Mr. Camiso, his team almost has to back up his own words on the pitch. Try to come out with a win. Roma hosts Bologna, another decent game, important game for the European battle. Torino with their new coach, Moreno.
Yeah, Moreno
Longo against Sampdoria.
At home.
Yeah, not,
It's a bit of a trap game, that one.
I just wanted to point out that, new beginnings for Torino. Parma, Lazio. It's a decent game. Obviously, Lazio is going to be coming off the midweek game, and then the derby. Okay, so besides the derby, you have a favorite game of the week?
I find, just even looking, you didn't mention Napoli Lecce. I think that's another trap game. Lecce obviously coming off a huge performance, and Napoli trying to come back onto the rise. So I can see some trouble in that game. Hopefully not for all the Napolitani fans out there. It's they're on the way up, and it would be nice to see them continue. But I think that is a trap game over there. Same with the Parma Lazio game, like you mentioned. I think that's another game where Parma is in a decent position. Obviously, they're with 32 points. They're in the mix. Lazio coming off the midweek game or their makeup midweek game, and now going to Parma to face a good Parma team. So I like those matchups. On paper, Fiorentina Atalanta looks good, but I think after Atalanta comes off a tie to Genoa, I think they come guns blazing against Fiorentina, and I hope for Fiorentina, but I think it's going to be a bit of a stretch for them to pick up points, so it's going to be tough. But no, obviously my heart and my eyes are for the derby.
So let's do our predictions of the week before getting to the derby. So Roma Bologna. It's tough because Roma is coming off that that embarrassing loss, but they are at home. I say 1-0 Roma.
I'm going to say 2-1 Roma. I think they do bounce back, like I had mentioned earlier. Obviously, Bologna is a good team and a team that has come back, to stun some teams too. But I think just going forward for Roma, it's way important. So I say 2-1.
Fiorentina, Atalanta. I say 3-0 win for Atalanta.
It's a tough game for Fiorentina. Like I said, I'm going to go 4-1 Atalanta in that game.
Torino, Sampdoria. I'm going to say this is a high-scoring game just because both defenses are terrible. Let's go 4-3 Sampdoria. 4-3
Samp on the road. That's pretty big. Obviously, almost picking up a draw against Napoli after a crazy comeback over there. But I don't know. It's tough. If Quagliarella, he got hurt.
Yeah.
In that game after he scored an absolute beauty of a goal. I don't know if you saw the volley. It was ridiculous, but
it was actually SportsCenter's highlight of the night this morning.
There you go. Shout out to SportsCenter TSN. But yeah, no, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with a draw. I'm gonna go 2-2 in that game.
Verona hosts Juventus. Obviously, it is a tough match for Juve. I feel like they always have a bit of trouble at the Bentegodi. Like, they'll pick up the win, but whether it's against Chievo or against Hellas Verona, they have some issues. Last year they beat Chievo 3-2 in the first game of the year there, and then obviously it's their first trip back to the Bentegodi since that game. That was actually Ronaldo's first game for Juve. I'm gonna go 2-1 for Juve. If Verona wasn't playing in the middle of the week, I would even give it as a draw. But because Verona's going to be a bit more tired, I'm going to say Juve wins 2-1.
I think Juve, they have trouble in the past, but they're one of those teams that they can be off and they can still pick up maximum points. It's on rare occasions that they don't play that well and they don't manage to get all 3 points. So I think they will come away with the win, and I think it's going to be, I don't know, maybe another 3-goal performance for Juventus. I'm going to go 3-1 in that game against Verona.
Spal hosts Sassuolo. Let's go 1-0 Sassuolo.
I'm going to go 2-0 Sassuolo. I don't know. Sassuolo coming off a bit of a high, and I think they keep it going.
Udinese and Brescia. That one is in Brescia, so it's rather Brescia-Udinese. Udinese, 3 straight losses. Brescia, obviously, they're terrible. Let's go 0-0.
I want to stick to my guns for Brescia to come out of relegation. I'm going to continue to say it until the very last day. Even if I'm wrong, I'm going to say a 1-0 win for Brescia. I think also Torregrossa gets back on the score sheet.
Napoli, Lecce. Even though Lecce is coming off that 4-0 win, I still say 3-0 Napoli.
Wow. Yeah. Like I said earlier, trap game for Napoli against Lecce, but they are at home. The fans have been really behind the team after these recent performances. The San Paolo is a great place to play. I'm gonna go 2-1 Napoli in that game.
Genoa host Cagliari. I think 1-1.
1-1. Yeah, and Cagliari still doesn't pick up a win.
No, that's why. I didn't want to give them a win.
I was thinking about the same thing. They've been on this dry or just basic or mediocre run of form as of late, not picking up all 3 points. But Genoa too, up and down team. I'm gonna go with a draw too. I'll stick with the 1-1 also.
Parma hosts Lazio. I say 4-0 Lazio.
Jesus. 4-0 Lazio at the Tardini. That's a good game.
Immobile hat trick.
Immobile hat trick too. I don't know. I'm gonna go 3-1 in that game for Lazio.
And then so the derby coming up, Inter at home. Leaving your emotions aside, Adriano. Heading into this game, I think Inter is the favorites. Yeah. You could agree. We need you to say that.
For sure. They're the favorites on paper, but the way I look at derbies, no matter what derby it is, the derby is a different animal all on its own. Throw form, throw run of performances, throw whatever out the window. You go into that game, it's just like a whole different atmosphere, a whole different beast. So yes, on paper, yes, on maybe even player-wise, even though there is players missing for Inter, or supposedly going to be missing. Obviously, Handanovic with injury, and Lautaro with his suspension. And I think Brozovic, I don't know, he's still nagging a bit of an injury, I believe. I'm not too sure. So, I don't know. Yes, on paper, yes, Inter's the favorite, but I don't think that merits to say, oh yeah, they're automatically going to win.
Well, if sports was automatically going to win, we wouldn't play the game.
Exactly, that's it.
I think for Inter, there's another angle that they have a couple of new players. Eriksson, Young, Moses. These are guys who played in important derbies in England, and they know what a derby means, right? Sure. Every player does.
Lukaku too.
Most players know what it means. There's not many derbies like the Derby della Madonnina, of course.
No. And
they're going to get their first taste of it. But, I think Eriksson coming from the North London Derby against Arsenal, Chelsea. Chelsea's derby is... Well, I know they obviously have a London Derby against both Arsenal and Tottenham. Young, obviously, the Manchester Derby, the Derby against Liverpool. These are big derbies in themselves. They're gonna be able to. They're veteran players. If they play, they're gonna know what the pressure is. They just have to, not get starstruck, I guess, by the grandiose event of the Derby della Madonnina, and for Inter as a whole, for this new look Inter, for Antonio Conte, it's the second time they get to do this season. So they're going to have to come into this game knowing what to expect. And Conte is going to have to sit these guys down and say, hey, this is what we're going to expect as a team. And this is how we have to beat Milan. On the other side, for Milan, I think if Zlatan is injured, that's going to be a huge loss because...
he's back. He's coming back.
He's coming back.
He was with the flu. He wasn't injured.
Yeah.
He had the flu.
So let's say he is unable to play.
He will be there.
And let's say he still hasn't trained with the team.
He trained by himself.
There you go. That's a huge loss because he's one player that knows what this derby means, especially in... he played in this derby on both sides. In Scudetto races. So...
Yeah.
I hope he plays. According to Adreano, he will. But that's going to be another element that, Mr. Derby della Madonnina, he knows everything about this derby. He knows from both sides. He knows everything about it. And for Milan, the younger players are going to have to look to him to I guess, generate passion in that feel to go out and play for the Milan kit. For the badge. And if there's one player on this team, it's Zlatan and obviously Romagnoli. But not many other players have that passion yet.
Well, listen, I mean, you nailed it on the head with Zlatan. That's an obvious factor. I mean, not just from me, but have seen reports that, he will most likely be back for the derby. If there's last minute things that go wrong, I mean, it is what it is. But if he's there, he brings a whole nother element, like you said. But watching the game over the weekend against Verona in the midfield, Benasser's absence, I personally think was another big factor. They weren't the same without him in the midfield. They looked a bit sloppy, a bit lost. Those two players alone, it just goes to show you, those two players alone make such a big impact on this team in the attacking aspect of the game and the midfield. So, I mean, I don't know. The team hasn't changed. With certain players, hasn't changed all too much. So they've been in the derby situations before. Donnarumma, Romagnoli, Musacchio, if he's going to play. But I don't know. I think, like you said, I think players need to be on their top of their game because this is one of the bigger games of the year. For this team, well, from Milan's point of view, for Inter, it's obviously another big game, but it would have been nice to be both teams, fully healthy and all the players in to get like a good gauge, because I don't know, I was hearing that Padelli between the sticks for Inter looked a bit shaky, but he is a veteran guy, so I don't know. Lautaro missing up top, can Lukaku take on the role by himself? Esposito, a young kid, so it's going to be tough to see. But I think that this game, no matter what's going on the outside, I think once you enter the pitch, it's when the lights come on and you got to play the game, because I think form and all that definitely is out the window.
Okay, score prediction.
Score prediction, I'm gonna go with my heart. I'm gonna go with a win, but I'm gonna go 2-1. I think they can do it. I don't think it's a stretch to say that they can't pick up the points. I'd be devastated with a loss because it's so important in this game. But for me personally, I'm gonna go with the 2-1 victory, and I wouldn't be surprised even if it would be a tie.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the opposite. I'm gonna say 2-1 Inter, and that will do it for us. Thanks for tuning in this week. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Fabrizio. Maybe next week or another week.
Yeah, for sure. We always like to get new guests, and Genoa, not a team that we speak about enough, so it would be nice to get his input. But nevertheless, do follow us on our social media accounts at the Calcio Guys on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook as well. We post all kinds of Serie A content, Calcio content. So to see this podcast, to listen to this podcast, Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all your favorite podcasting platforms to catch this amazing podcast. And we will be returning next week.
Thanks for listening.
Ciao.
The Calcio Guys is a weekly podcast by Adreano Donardo, Gianni Della Colli, and myself, Nicholas Di Giovanni. We want to bring Calcio back to its roots in our communities and share stories from around the world about why we're passionate about the beautiful game. You can listen to us anywhere where you listen to your podcasts, including Spreaker, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart Radio, and Mixcloud. Give us your opinion on social media at The Calcio Guys on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The outro song is The Last Ones by Jahzzar.